Right, we're going to get into Subintel. We've covered a lot recently about certain mercenary groups and so-called private security groups. This is G4S, which is the largest private security company in the world and sells armed guards as a high-quality, low-cost alternative to the police. And this is the price. Philip Mayo cost himself a law enforcement career the day after he helped shatter a prison inmate's face and beat him until his back was broken. But the fired Maryland corrections officer wasn't out of uniform for long. Within months, G4S gave him a job 20 minutes up the road guarding an office building and its workers. And co-workers said he raised more red flags almost immediately, and they claimed he stalked a woman around the building, and he adjusted security cameras to watch women enter the locker room and groped a co-worker's breasts. Now, Mayo's supervisors warned his bosses, fire this guy before someone gets hurt, and they ignored him. And a police report details what happened next. One night on the graveyard shift, as it's called, Mayo watched a cleaning lady push a cart down a darkened hallway, waited until they were alone, and then pinned her from behind, slammed her head against the wall, and ripped her clothes. Now, the woman begged not to do it, and he turned around and said, "I'll do what I want. I'm security." And he got away with it. Again, this confirms of what we've been saying in the show. They're taking on undesirables based on profiling and putting them in jobs where anything goes. And the employer is obligated to do anything as well. Now, as they have previous misdemeanors hanging over them, this is how these security and agency people work. They have trapped many people into this program. Neil Keenan being a prime example. They wait till you commit an offence, then they see where they can place you in these security companies or mercenary companies or agency assets. Many people with asthma, this is from the UK, oh dear, could cut their carbon footprint and help save the environment by switching to a greener medication, according to UK researchers, and making the swap would have as big an eco-impact as turning vegetarian or becoming an avid recycler. Really? And they state it's because some inhalers release greenhouse gases linked to global warming. Funny they didn't ask the company who produces them to deal with it. Oh no. But the Cambridge University team told BMJ Open patients must check with a doctor before changing medication, as some patients will not be able to switch and should not be made to feel guilty, they added. Metered dose inhalers account for nearly 4% of the NHS's greenhouse gas emissions, according to some experts. Really? These people have nothing better to do. Coming soon, breathing tax. President Emmanuel Macron of France has described NATO as brain dead. Yes. Stressing what he sees as a waning commitment to the transatlantic alliance by its main guarantor, the American taxpayers. Now, he was interviewed by The Economist this week, and he cited the US failure to consult NATO before pulling forces out of northern Syria. Really? and he also appeared to cast doubt on whether NATO members were still committed to collective defence. Now, NATO celebrates 70 years since its founding at a London summit next month, and what we are currently experiencing is the brain death of NATO. And he warned European members that they could no longer rely on the US to defend the alliance, which was established at the start of the Cold War to bolster Western European and US security. Yes, Mr. Macron, the American people are tired of paying for the United States, not of America, but Europe, Mr. Macron. They've had enough, like funding the whole of the UN, or most of it. That'll be next to go. I'm going to have an award this week. Fake as a Glass Eye Award goes to the Ontario Minister for Health for, quite frankly, her pathetic attempt to lie to the Canadian people this past week. So take a bow, Christine Elliott. Why? Well, she did a public staged vaccine attempt to convince the public the need for vaccines. And yet, clearly on the video, did not receive the vaccine herself. Anyone who's seen the video will know exactly what I mean. It was all fake. And this needs to go viral, and she needs to be called out and questioned as to why she did that public deception piece. And what Canadians need to address is, if she's going to lie and deceive over this, what else is she lying about? Call her out. Talking about vaccines, it is linked. Perhaps not in the way people thought. But a recent study has found that infants and school children who have been exposed to the highly toxic childhood vaccination schedules are more vulnerable to pedocrime than those who have not. And the reason being, these mandated vaccines contain minute chips that can be used to profoundly affect the individual both physically and psychologically. Studies have linked Common Core to declining test scores. Well, I never. And generally poor student performance this week. And this failure in US schools comes at a time when Chinese students appear to be blowing American children out of the water. No surprise. And results from the Programme for International Student Assessment, which tests students internationally on their proficiency in math, science and reading, show that China ranks a full 21 spots ahead of Americans. Now, the report, I think it was by Betsy DeVos who read it out, said the 21st century needs to remain an American century. Letting the Chinese take the global lead would have disastrous results across the world. If we expect our future engineers, scientists and mathematicians to compete in an increasingly globalized world, it's clear that Common Core needs to be abandoned, according to the experts. No shit, Sherlock. You know, those that push this forward, if they're still alive, should be dealt with in the courts. The damage they've done to the children and this country. You know, this was the classic Ouroboros programme in full swing. Run down the West whilst promoting the East. That's what's been going on for the last 3 or 4 decades. Now that programme has failed to change over the power structure, it's a case of Wells to Fargo, are we going to do now? It's going to take a long time to pull that back. And the reality is the Western world needs massive injection of funds, which is available when clowns get out the way, and ideas to equal the brain drain to the East. And it will take at least 20 years for us to catch up. It's not just 21 places behind China. I think America was somewhere around 30th. And places like small islands off Japan knocking us out the water. It's beyond a joke, and it's a national disgrace. And it needs new ideas. We need new charter schools designed to actually teach children, not educate them. And a complete scrapping of the old systems altogether. It didn't work. It doesn't work. And you can mince about it all you like. The top and bottom line is it didn't work. Otherwise, we wouldn't be 21 places behind China. Never mind some of the other countries. We're near 30 behind India. And we need new curriculums quickly. Clearly, when we have some Americans who don't even know their own states, there's a massive problem here. And denying or ignoring it will not make it go away. It just won't. Oh boy, this last piece before we go into a music break. Apologies for my language before we start, but there's some things that really call for F-bombs in my opinion, and this is one of them. This is the UPS Worker Brigade in its full force. England's public school system has decided that it's no longer okay for its faculty and staff members to do anything other than nod and smile in full agreement every time a new LGBTQP curriculum is suddenly and forcibly imposed upon innocent children in the classroom. Now, a 74-year-old school board member by the name of Maureen Griffith learned this the hard way recently, as she was reportedly suspended from her job simply for questioning a staff decision to implement an LGBTQP Pride Month at Alberton Community School in Brent, North London. Now, staff at Alberton have decided to purchase a whole slew of new LGBTQP books for the school library, which was done without any prior consultation with Griffith, who was the school board member and had served as the school's governor since the early 1990s. Now, at the meeting, she raised about the introduction of LGBT books, and also Pride Month into the school had not been mentioned before at any previous meetings, Miss Griffiths is quoted as saying. And in the meeting, she said, as I said that parents had not been consulted, which they hadn't, and that there would be parents with children from religious backgrounds who would object and not want their children to have this form of sexual education. Quite why she's using the term religious background makes any sort of differences beyond me. And she urged her colleagues to think about the children and their families, emphasising the fact, as a mother herself, she would not want her sons to be reading any of the LGBTQP books that were stocked in the library, nor would she want them to participate in the Pride Month. Now, apparently, those statements in the boardroom triggered one of the school's faculty members, who reportedly stormed out of the room in a tizzy and throwing a hissy fit along the way. Ooh. As this show has warned, This is not about education at all. This is a program of social engineering and civil servants, school board people, social workers with 0 brain cells combined. And they're running an operation for the system. And they need to wake up and smell reality for once. With their sanctimonious and fake outrages, acting not out of care for gay and lesbian people. Oh no. Let's be honest, society in general has never really cared for them people, as has been shown by the verbal abuse and the violence they have had to endure. They're only doing it now because they're told to do so, like nice little puppets, and because they think you'll get a promotion if you go along with it, or fired if you don't, depending on your own reaction. The point is, if you really cared for those people, you would quit this program and subsequently protect the children. In case you forgot, whilst you are fakely promoting gay and lesbian people, you are forgetting you have an obligation to protect all the children. An obligation. So kudos for the teacher for standing up. As for the rest of you, quite frankly, you're an embarrassment to society. An utter embarrassment. Coming to a school near you, the next programme, called the EPSTEIN programme, Epstein, where we invite all child-fiddling pedophiles into the classroom to discuss and promote their cause with the children. Don't be ridiculous, some may say. Really? Don't be ridiculous. Those who are now following and going along with this multi-lettered programme would have said the same thing 20 years ago, would they not? Remember that. Whilst their brains is currently in the torpor mode position, spelt TORPOR in case you wish to look it up. It beggars belief. It really beggars. Exactly. For those who are unaware of what the letter Q is, no, it's not QAnon. This boggles my mind. Q apparently stands for queer. How ironic it is that word, which was actually banned under the political correctness junta, but now they wish to use that term. It's all very queer if you'd ask me. And that's no different to when they banned the N-word, which was banned as that group of people thought it was offensive. And then they go around calling each other by the same word. The levels of stupidity and madness has no end, it seems, as this next part proves. As for the P, oh dear. For those who thought I was being ridiculous in the last paragraph, read the Epstein programme. The P is for pedosexual. Pedo-fucking-sexual teaching to children. You can't make this shit up. And why did only one teacher speak up? As for the rest of them, quite frankly, they're cowardly parasites and their children should be taken off them. Because if you can't look after people in class, you're not capable of looking after your own either. And put in homes where they will be protected from their ignorance and utter stupidity. Pedosexual teaching in school. Coming soon into the classroom, the licensed paedophilia group known as Airport Security, the TSA, doing school tours of how to fondle all your private parts and legally get away with it. So then it becomes LGB, TQP, TSA, which looks like a dyslexic's keyboard to me. It beggars belief, and again, it shows you how stupid we the people are to go along with all this nonsense. You know, I don't care what sexuality or orientation you are. Just keep it to yourself and keep it away from children. School is supposed to be about learning and words and reading and sums, not teaching kids how to give a blowjob or sticking dicks up each other's jacksies, for sore's sake. What's wrong with people? It's unreal. As for the UPS Working Crew Brigade, here is my label. WHMNS-PLHMNIHSGFY, which stands for White, Heterosexual Male, Non-Supremacist, Peace-Loving, Hello, my name is Human, so go fuck yourselves.